So we're going to go ahead and get started. So this next session is really devoted to the question of how we're going to put Sanjeev's stated mission for us to touch 1 billion lives in the next 10 years into action. And I pose this as a question because we certainly don't have all the answers. But we're going to begin to sort of wrap our heads around the beginning of some strategies to think about this. So one of the ways that we are going to touch 1 billion are by coming together in places like this. I was just looking at the registration, and I'm going to ask that you raise your hand or you stand. We had registered someone from Argentina, a group from Australia, large group, Canada, Colombia, Ecuador, Egypt, India, Ireland, Pakistan, Peru, Uganda, the UK, Uruguay. There's a few of you. Vietnam, and 438 people from the United States. And of course, many from Albuquerque, many from New Mexico. I'm just so honored that you're all here with us. This is partly how we're going to do it, is by coming together. We think that we need somewhere in the vicinity of 1,000 echo hubs, more or less, across the globe to be able to accomplish this goal, to reach the clinics and reach the clinicians and reach the educators and reach the schools and touch 1 billion lives. So right now, as of this week, unless I've missed anybody who has snuck in the last few days, we have 82 echo hubs around the world in 12 countries. That's unbelievable, but that's a long way from 1,000. That leaves more than 900 to go. How are we possibly going to launch 900 more hubs fast enough? So let me show you some numbers. So these are our Echo Superhubs now. We're going to talk about what that is. Can you switch to the next slide? I want to show you our Echo growth chart. Think about your child's growth chart. Next slide. You're going to break my heart. All right. I'm going to wait till you find it because one of my people is going to help you find it. So I'm going to come back to the Echo growth chart. The truth is that the Echo Institute, as Sanjeev said, can't do it alone. We can't be the single point of entry into the Echo movement. We are now at the point that our trainings are so large every month that we close them. We're breaking fire code. We can't fit more bodies in. And we don't want to say no. Yes, there's our chart. Thank you very much. So let me just tell you a little tiny bit about this story. Echo originated in 2003, 2004, and there were some early adopters, and some of you are here. So in those early years, about 5 Echoes began that were not within the VA system and not Department of Defense. 5 early adopters across those many years. We began the effort of creating a replication process and team. We were 1. Now we are 11. But we started in 2013. In that year, we began to sign contracts. Many of you know what this process is. I'm not going to go into detail. But these partnership documents, it was the very beginning. And 3 new Echo hubs launched that year. The next year, we signed 25 more documents. We had people coming monthly for these introductions. It's an opportunity to video conference with us and learn about the Echo movement. And then coming for 1 day or coming for 3 days. Look at those numbers. Very solid. And 18 hubs launched that year. Last year, 2015, look at how many contracts signed, almost triple the number. Our attendance went nicely up in a very smooth curve. many more launches, and we trained our first few Superhubs. And then already year to date, in 3 months only of 2016, look at this curve. 50 new partners have committed to working with ECHO. 46 on average have attended our introduction. 76 on average are coming for each monthly orientation. 56 are coming to train with us to learn to launch. We've already launched 9, which includes, so exciting, the first hub not trained by the ECHO Institute, right? So we are going to need help in turning this curve and managing this growth, right? So I just want you to understand that this is a hockey stick, and we can't do it alone. So Superhubs are the natural evolution of what has been a very organic growth process. That we began to think, how can we go beyond sharing the ECHO model with other organizations who want to use this model to amplify their own impact? How do we then train organizations to essentially function like an ECHO Institute at the University of New Mexico, who themselves can do this Superhub function? What we're talking about is something actually very simple. The legal authority, the training, the ability to recruit, train, authorize, and support new ECHO hubs into the future. That's what a Superhub is, right, fundamentally. We do hope to include some virtual lines of training. As you heard from Jonathan Wolf, we are looking to break down the barriers to accessing the ECHO model and our ECHO tools and make it easier. At this time, we don't have the ability to train people fully in doing ECHO virtually, which does seem a bit odd, but we know that relationships are a big part of the success of ECHO, and we do believe in the face-to-face building of those relationships. But we are exploring virtual training. So what Superhubs have been trained? There are now 8, some of whom are at the table. Our first cohort is joining me at the table, but the entire list: ECHO India, the University of Wyoming ECHO, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the University of Chicago, ECHO Northern Ireland, Show Me ECHO in Missouri, and the University of Wyoming, ECHO Uruguay, and the University of Washington. Now this is a journey. Just like you can't add water and instantly create an ECHO, it takes time, it takes effort. You build it and you grow and you launch and you learn and you reflect and you expand. The same is very much true for our Superhubs. And all of our Superhubs are somewhere along the process. In fact, only 3 have really begun full operations, and maybe not even full operations. They are in the process, they've launched. And others are still along that road. The critical principles that Sanjeev mentioned yesterday morning that I want to bring to the table for this conversation. First of all, the role and principle of mutual sharing. You heard me do a little dance around Box. And I want everyone to understand what Box is and does, because you signed documents that committed you to this principle of mutual sharing, and there is no other way we'll get to 1 billion people, no other way. You can't recreate the wheel every time you do a new ECHO. We must learn from one another. So the ECHO Institute, and many of you have contributed fabulous materials of all kinds into this incredible archive called Box. It's a protected space that's only open to those of you who are authorized partners, number 1, and who have agreed to the rules of use of this archive. There are evaluation tools, curriculum materials, everything you can possibly imagine that makes doing ECHO easier. You're taking from it, it's time to give back to it. So I challenge each of you who has not yet used Box to sign up while you're here. We have a little station. Sign the paper, get access, and use it. Don't just take, but give. Sanjeev talked about sharing with abandon. That's the way it's going to get to 1 billion. The other principle that we're going to talk about today is the principle of non-exclusivity. None of our Superhubs are territorially proprietary or topically proprietary. None of them own space. Any potential ECHO partner can come to any potential ECHO Superhub and ask for support and learn and get support. In fact, they'll get support from all of us, because we have to be a community in order to grow one another and really reach our true potential. So with that, I'm going to introduce our panelists. So first of all, Dr. Ramesh Sachdeva is a practicing pediatric critical care physician and the Associate Executive Director at the American Academy of Pediatrics. In this role, Ramesh oversees the Academy's program in quality improvement, innovation, and the Pediatric ECHO Superhub. So Dr. Ramesh Sachdeva. Also, we have Sandy Root-Elledge. Sandy is the Executive Director of the Wyoming Institute for Disabilities, a great acronym, WIND, at the University of Wyoming. Sandy's original interest in ECHO was to use it in education and for assistive technology. Since her initial introduction to Project ECHO in March of 2013, WIND has successfully translated the model for use in education and for a number of issues beyond assistive technology, and serves as a superhub for ECHOs relating to education, health, and disabilities. Dr. Kumud Rai is our third panelist, and he is one of India's premier vascular surgeons. He serves at Max Hospital in Delhi, India. He's head of the ECHO India Trust, which was actually the precursor to the ECHO India Superhub, which launched last year in 2015. And Dr. Max Watson, Professor Max Watson, is the medical director of the Northern Ireland Hospice, and he leads the Northern Ireland Superhub. Max has been involved with ECHO since 2014. Many of you saw his TED Talk or ECHO Talk at our last conference, and in the steady expansion of hubs across Northern Ireland and the UK since that time, both in palliative care and in many other clinical areas. For this next year, the hub has responsibility in supporting 16 funded networks, as well as clinical areas. Oh, as well as running a regular program of training for new hubs wishing to start on the ECHO trail. So, I'm going to ask each of our partners to give you a perspective on their journey, and then we're going to turn it over to your questions and engage in a discussion.
Thanks, Erica, and good morning, everyone. I just want to start, first of all, by thanking the ECHO Institute, Dr. Sanjeev Arora, Erica, and the entire ECHO team for inviting us and for giving pediatrics this tremendous opportunity to be a super hub and share our story with you all this morning. I also want to take a moment to just say that it's such an honor for me to be on this panel, particularly with Dr. Kumud Rai. Many of you probably do not know, but Dr. Kumud Rai was my professor of surgery when I was a medical student. So it's a distinct... So it's a real privilege to share the stage with Dr. Rai. So I'll start off our story by just telling a little bit about the American Academy of Pediatrics, share how we got into the ECHO journey, and then share our vision of where we are aspiring to move forward with all of you. So as probably many of you are aware, the American Academy of Pediatrics is a member organization that comprises of approximately 64,000 pediatricians, which span primary care pediatricians, pediatric subspecialists like pediatric cardiologists, critical care, the field I'm in, neonatology, gastroenterology, surgery, and others. The Academy itself is based in the Chicago area with another satellite office in Washington, D.C., which does a lot of work in terms of advocacy and policy development at the federal level. The Academy's mission is to improve the health of all children. All children defined very broadly, anywhere in the world. So the Academy clearly has an international reach with a very vibrant international program within the American Academy of Pediatrics, which touches many, many countries, many of which are represented in this room this morning. As it relates to ECHO, we have dedicated staff overseeing the ECHO activities who work with me. Just want to acknowledge Tricia and Doris, who are in the audience. Thank you for your hard work. They are accompanied by other staff who provide that infrastructure and support through our program and division for innovation, which is really focused on using new technological advances to really redefine the profession and delivery of care for pediatrics across the globe. So it's a very aspiring, exciting journey that we have embarked on, and be happy to address other aspects in questions. As relates to ECHO, we got involved in this journey about 3 years ago when we got funded from the Maternal and Child Health Bureau to address the issue of access to children with pediatric epilepsy. This may come as a surprise, but in the area where I do my clinical work in Wisconsin, the average wait time to see a pediatric epileptologist could be as much as 6 months. So it's very challenging for parents and for children. So we got this grant. We were the National Coordinating Center for this activity, started the work, and a pilot, a sub-pilot, a secondary aim in our grant was to test ECHO. There had been some previous smaller pilots in pediatrics, but not at a larger scale. So what would that mean? And it was very, very exciting that just within a few months of our work, the Maternal and Child Health Bureau encouraged us to accelerate the ECHO expansion. They said, you don't need to wait 3 years. It's working. Accelerate it. So what was envisioned as a pilot in New Mexico rapidly expanded over 3 years from New Mexico to Colorado, Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, and New York. And subsequently, the epilepsy ECHO led to additional funding from the private sector to do an endocrinology ECHO in Georgia. So it was a very, very rapid expansion. There's some key lessons we learned along the way. The first is that once we start on the ECHO journey, funding just follows. And that point has been made many times. In my career, this is the first time where a federal agency came and said, accelerate ECHO faster than what you proposed. Why one state? Go beyond. The second point is the importance of relationship building. That's been highlighted before. And one of the challenges we have had in one of our sites has been, as the leadership of this site changed, we have struggled to rebuild that relationship. And Erica and we have had these conversations. How do we cement that relationship? But that's key to success. The third is, how does ECHO really work in rare conditions? Epilepsy is common, but not that common. So in rare conditions, is it a statewide approach, a regional approach? What are newer models for rare conditions? And that's something we are exploring and collecting data on. Other questions that have emerged for us, which we are trying to put our arms around, is what does ECHO mean in terms of its application across the pediatric age spectrum? So pediatrics can include an infant or an 18-year-old adolescent, a child in the hospital, or somebody in the primary care office needing immunizations. Where does ECHO have the greatest impact? We know it works everywhere, but what's the differential impact? Furthermore, within pediatrics, there are multiple areas. Some are more procedure-oriented, like surgical fields. Others are more cognitive-based, counseling, like child abuse, developmental pediatrics, and mental health issues. All of them require a team approach, but how best do we leverage the power of the ECHO approach to impact these potentially disparate challenges? So we're looking at that. And finally, it's very, very exciting that based upon our ECHO activities and performance, last year our board of directors funded us internally from our internal academy foundation to take ECHO and expand it more internally since the time we became the Superhub. So we became a Superhub, and the board said, here's some monies, go expand it. So we are continuously working with other partners, many of whom are in this room, activities that touch autism, activities that touch sickle cell, activities that touch pediatric surgery are just some key examples of activities that we are looking at. We've had a couple of training sessions for the Superhub. We had folks from pediatric surgery, besides epilepsy, and also in sickle cell, as Erica was pointing out.
And they've launched.
And the program, Erica, as you pointed out, in sickle cell at Cincinnati Children's has now launched. Yep. So it's very exciting to see they came for training and went back, and is now that site is live, which is very, very exciting. We have Clear aspirations, consistent with the Academy's approach to move towards an international dimension. So we are exploring those opportunities with Dr. Rai and other folks. And lastly, I'll just end by saying that we are very excited to be part of this journey. And we really hope that our pediatric journey can contribute significantly to the broader vision of touching 1 billion people. Thank you, Erica.
All right. Sandy, will you tell us a little bit about your journey?
I will. Thank you. I also would like to begin by thanking the ECHO Institute and Dr. Aurora and Erica as well as my colleagues from the University of Wyoming, 4 of which are here today, Canyon and Wendy and Corey. I might be speaking, but they do all of the work. You can be assured of that. I just want to start with how Wyoming began. Indeed, we heard about ECHO, but we really began by addressing needs, and we still continue to do that. What are some of the greatest needs and documented needs as well? To give you a little background, Wyoming has, first we started work in education, and especially related to special education. Wyoming has slightly higher rates of children receiving special education and services than the nation. But really a very low number of specialists to address needs, and that translates to healthcare services as well. So one example is in terms of certified behavior analysts in Colorado, there's one for every 14,000 or so people. In Wyoming, there's one for every 73,000 people. We have a very low population and a large geographic area. We're the 9th largest state in terms of land mass in the United States. 2 of our towns that are the biggest have less than 70,000 people. So the complications are that there aren't that many people, but definite needs. We have few major roads, and our roads are complicated with mountain passes and up to 9 months of winter weather. So that climate also doesn't attract people who might want to become specialists and live in Wyoming. So we began by addressing assistive technology and education, and it was because it was work we were already doing. And assistive technology are tools and strategies to help individuals meet their needs or goals. That can range from a magnification device to a complex wheelchair and communication system. So we began by offering weekly sessions to reach educators so that they could implement assistive technology on behalf of students. What we found, our outcomes are that we are diminishing professional isolation. We're contributing to knowledge, and our educators report that they are changing what they're doing in their practice, and we're seeing it based on ECHO as well. So from there, and I have to talk a little bit about the complications of translating the model. We had to name what we were doing slightly different. We weren't conducting clinics, so we refer to them as networks. We were measuring the fidelity of the translation of our model to make sure we were in line with the integrity of the vision and the model. We had to translate the process to address students and educators in schools. Our unit of measure can be anywhere from a professional to a student to a school district. The use of iECHO that's rooted in healthcare and translating to how we use it in terms of education. We had to identify trainers. As I said, in Wyoming, we have little expertise, so our hubs don't look like a traditional hub. Our hubs leverage expertise, often from around the country. And then the standardization of practices and the creation of tools and processes. So from there, in education, we continued our work in education. The slide is up, sorry. So we're working in autism, in early childhood transition, early childhood literacy, addressing the need for students to be school ready and be reading. Positive behavioral supports and secondary transition to improve the outcomes of students from secondary schools to post-secondary employment, education, adult health care, and independent living. And then in health care, so really our development has been in hubs, but it's based on the success and also based on the designation as a super hub. So our hub development is soon to include, we already have one in aging with our Wyoming Center on Aging. We're working on developing one for the Medicaid waivers, the 1915C waivers. And with our School of Nursing and leaders from the Robert Wood Johnson Fellows Program, we're working on an ECHO to address school nurses and the needs they might have. And again, thinking in terms of Wyoming, it's a matter of there's really low incidence rates, but they often haven't seen a specific case or type of case. And then we're addressing several other new ones. Our super hub work has focused around, we have other states participating with us, but also we're helping guide educators in New Mexico, North Dakota, and Florida. And we've hosted visits from India, 2 schools in India. And we had our first conference 2 months ago that had over 100 attendees. And one of our contributions to the model that we sort of claim is that we close caption everything. So we want to, as an Institute on Disabilities, model accessibility. So everything is closed caption, which has a side benefit as well, and that's that for research or other purposes, there's transcripts of every single session. So that's where we stand. And we thank the Institute for the invitation.
Morning, everyone. I thank Sanjeev, Erica, Tracy, in fact, the entire Project ECHO staff for the privilege of being here today and for nominating us as one of the super hubs. The ECHO India Trust is a not-for-profit trust, was founded 8 years ago. But our journey with the conduction of ECHO clinics started barely 3 years ago. Our first project was on HIV/AIDS with the National AIDS Control Organization and one of the premier medical schools called the Maulana Azad Medical College, New Delhi. And they ran regular tele-echo clinics with their locations where they were not able to treat the HIV/AIDS patients very effectively. They had about 14 spokes. It lasted for a while, and we are now going to resurrect it. Our success stories have really been 3. You heard Dr. Prabhat Chand yesterday from the National Institute of Mental Health and Allied Sciences, who has single-handedly connected with over 1,000 healthcare professionals, mostly doctors, in treating patients with mental health disorders. He and his colleagues run 5 ECHO clinics now from their institute. So let's all give him a big hand. That's really, really tremendous. The second success story has been with the Karuna Trust, and I'm sure all of you heard Dr. Sudarshan yesterday. It's wonderful to have a champion like him. We conducted a cancer screening program in a district with primary health center, where the primary healthcare workers called ASHA workers were given tablets and asked to detect 3 common cancers: cancer of the oral cavity, cancer of the breast, and cancer of the cervix, because these were common in that region. The project is about to close. They have screened over 11,000 people, and an initial estimate was a little over 100 who were thought to have early cancers. They have then been referred to a prestigious cancer hospital in a nearby city called Bengaluru, where the diagnosis will be confirmed and free treatment given. So that has been a success, and we wish to replicate this model in many of our rural areas where we can detect cancer patients, and early detection, as we all know, can lead to cure in contrast to late detection. The third latest one off the block is in the field of education, and it is essentially to empower the teachers, school teachers, in two areas. One is math, and that is specifically aimed for 10 to 12-year-olds, and for English and comprehension for 8 to 10-year-olds. It's run out of a school called Ambience Public School, and we're very grateful to Sandy and Wyoming Institute, who hosted the person who drives it, their vice principal, Anuradha Rai, who spent 4 days with them and came back with loads of ideas. They've been doing this, running it for now 3 months, and they're ready to scale it up. They have about 30 spokes, teachers from 30 schools who log in regularly. What we are excited about are a couple of new projects. One of them is in multi-drug resistant tuberculosis, and we are joining hands with the Government of India through the Indian Council of Medical Research, through the Tuberculosis Research Institute, and through CDC of America to run a comprehensive program, a pilot program to begin with, on multi-drug resistant tuberculosis. And lastly, we are very excited to join with Tata's and the Tata Memorial Hospital to be on the national cancer grid, and to join with them and talk about tobacco cessation and chemotherapy, guided chemotherapy by primary care physicians. It's something very exciting. These are early days yet. I would also like to thank the Goradia Trust of the US, who's not here today, who have funded our activities through Project ECHO, and also the Merck Foundation, who sees value in us, because India has 1.25 billion, and we would surely like to contribute at least 10 million from India towards the goal of 1 billion. Finally, I'd like to thank my colleague, Dr. Sunil Anand, the Executive Director of ECHO India. Sunil, can you please rise? He's the one who does all the hard work and has very graciously asked me to be on the stage. Thank you, Sunil.
Thank you, Dr. Rai.
Hi,
Dr. Watson.
Max. You've heard quite a lot from very different places with very different stories, and yet a passion for getting information and care out to people who otherwise would not get it. Our story in Northern Ireland is similar. Palliative care patients in rural areas, underserved, being looked after by nurses who feel increasingly under pressure, dealing more and more with complex issues with less and less resource. That's how we got involved, and it grew. It grew from a one project, and then the government saw that we were able to deliver, and they asked, would you help us? And it grew to 5, and then they've asked us to do some more. And then I understand NHS England had been on the phone, and that there are people maybe in Spain who are interested, and so it grows. It grows. Rather than talking specifically about our story, I try to think about what questions you might be having, and the sort of questions that we have struggled with in terms of what is this super hub stuff, and where does a hub end and a super hub begin? And is a super hub something that you should aspire to, or are you nuts if you think at all about super hubdom? This is a little graphic that I kind of put together trying to make sense of it. And you see that the core work of a super hub is being a hub. It is because we've learnt as being a hub how to run hubs that we then have the shop window in which we can bring people in to see and observe what goes on so that they can then be trained to become their own hub. So that's how I see it, this circles within circles. But there are additional bits of work, additional bits of madness connected with the super. We don't know what a super hub really is because no one has done this before. And we're exploring it together. It's a challenge, but then no one's done really ECHO for 1 billion people before. So we're not alone. So what are our specific roles as a super hub? Raising awareness, demonstrating ECHO, training new hubs, screening out people who come forward for hub training, making sure that they really are appropriate, maintaining fidelity, a huge component of our work. Have people really got it? So crucial. You will observe you only take in one hub meeting for somebody to be rude or to be ignorant, and that whole hub has gone. So we've got to maintain fidelity. Developing our rollout strategy. I left here 2 years ago really worried where are we going to get the funding from. Within a few months, my concern was, how are we going to meet all this need? The money wasn't the problem. It's getting the structure right. We have a role as super hubs in supporting the Institute. You might think it's the other way around, but actually, there aren't 1 billion people in America. They can't do it without us. And so we got to help these guys. And one of the things that when we met as super hubs, we think that the best way of securing sustainability for us all is that we need to do a study which demonstrates that ECHO really does work, whether it's in India or Montana or Wyoming or even Northern Ireland. We need to do that study and prove that the ECHO emperor has got fantastic clothes. Thank you.
Wow. So you've heard a few key themes. One is that if you build it, the money will come. You've heard us say that before, and I know it's hard to believe, but there is deep truth. Money follows successful ECHOs and not the other way around. And we're discovering that that's true for super hubs as well. You've heard about a lot of interconnections and a lot of growth and a lot of exploration that we don't know all the answers. But we are going to open this up to your questions and do our best. We also invite the other super hubs in the making. There are more than those of us here at the table. So Wyoming is here, Uruguay is in the audience, Missouri is in the audience, the University of Washington is in the audience, and the University of Chicago is also in the audience. So feel free to pose your questions to them or to us, and let's open it up. Take this one.
Right. Thank you for being so inspiring. My question is, do you have to have been a hub to become a super hub?
Not so far. This is all a pilot. There is a fundamental hub knowledge that's required, whether that comes from being a hub or facilitating hubs. So the AAP and Echo India are two examples of non-hub superhubs. That puts them at a disadvantage. But they have deep knowledge facilitating, supporting, enveloping, nurturing hubs. And we think that that translates in a deep way, but it does look a little different than a hub that graduates. Would you add anything? Go ahead, Dr. Wright.
I would like to add, Erica is absolutely right. We haven't run an echo clinic out of the Echo India Superhub. But our staff actually goes and trains anyone who's interested. And believe you me, it can be very, very taxing calling first the hub, giving them the entire training, calling the spokes, teaching them about etiquettes, fidelity, how to go about doing things. We also provide financial support to them where necessary for small things like webcams. We can't buy them computers, that would be way too expensive. We do give them money if acquiring bandwidth is a problem, so we support them in this way. And essentially, we handhold them for the first few meetings till we are convinced that they are running the way an echo clinic is supposed to run. And I think that gives us a fair bit of experience in doing this. I have talked about 3 of them. There are actually more. They're just started, so I haven't talked about them. But it is literally running a new clinic every time when somebody joins in, because for some reason they require a lot of hand-holding in India than anywhere else.
Hello?
Thank you for the talk. My name is Kelly Withy. I'm with the Echo Hawaii, and my question is on a standard form of evaluation. I'm concerned that if we want to document we've touched 1 billion lives, we need to have some standard question, and it could be as simple as each of the participants asking them how many patients have you used your echo information with this week, or it could be something statistically significant that would prove that our emperor was wearing clothes, but I would love to see something standard that Echo came down, where the MetaECHO came down with and asked me to use.
Thank you, Kelly. So you got a taste of where we're headed in terms of data collection from Dr. Wolf. So you have all agreed, those of you who are signed partners, to use iEcho. Well, iEcho is going to morph into this other much more useful and fun tool. It will serve you better, but it will also serve the purpose of helping us count. What is important to us is not to know exactly numerically how many touches you've made today, because ultimately we're going to have a pretty reliable algorithm or ballpark guess based on spokes, hubs, superhubs, etc. But rather to know how echo is being applied and adapted and adopted around the world. So it's very important to us, this kind of tracking, and I do think we need to figure out together what metrics are best. Some of them will be universal and some of them will be specific to particular situations, right?
Could I come in on that just a little? Thank you very much indeed. I think that's our feeling as a hub exactly, that for Echo to reach 1 billion, we cannot rely on grants or philanthropy. We have got to demonstrate so clearly and so rigorously that Echo has a real effect, that health ministers across the world will be convinced that Echo should be part of existing healthcare structures. If that's where we want to get to, then we need to work out what the product is which will do that to health ministers, and then we work back and we say, well, this is the data that we need to collect, this is the study that we need to do, this is where we need to do it, and we realize it's a really expensive, long process, but we realize that ultimately it is the secure way of securing the sustainability of Echo. So this is where we're at as Superhubs, and we want to combine with the Institute to really look partnering with major organizations to help us work out exactly what you're saying and try to do this work as quickly as we can.
Dr. Sachdeva?
Yeah, just building on Max's point, building on that further. So within the American Academy of Pediatrics, one of the things which we are looking at moving forward is, even though currently the ECHO activities are project-based, epilepsy, endocrinology, and so on, a long-term vision, and I was alluding to that in my previous remarks, is to see how could we hardwire ECHO as a key modality of how healthcare is delivered for children globally. And that's actually being implemented through a parallel initiative called Practice Transformation, which really means the future of healthcare delivery with the adoption of new technologies to overcome the challenges of access and quality of care for care around the globe for children. How could ECHO be the key solution for that broader approach? And to accomplish this, it becomes imperative that we have not just good metrics and measures, but outcome measures. So another related effort which we just finished is a large 5-year CHIPRA grant from the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality, looking at quality measures. And the next step of this iteration is, how do these two merge? So how do we look at outcome metrics to look at the impact to the health of children long term?
Beautiful. If you want a voice in how those metrics are designed into the software system, come to Jonathan's session tomorrow morning. If you want to have a voice in the return on investment equation that is being debated, go to that session led by Dr. Carissa Lynn tomorrow morning. And if you want to talk to the Ontario Ministry of Health, they have representatives here, and the New Mexico Department of Health has representatives here. These are people who have invested in ECHO. You should ask them why.
Good morning. My question is sort of a follow-on to some of the comments that you just made, and that is, how key is the support of either a national, regional, or local government to what you do, and do you come to the governmental entity with a proposal to address specific diseases or conditions, or is it the reverse, or do you collaborate to decide what you're going to focus on?
Thanks, Mac. I can speak in terms of Wyoming. When we completed our initial work, we communicated about that with our state agencies, and then it's much like everyone has said. Once you open the doors, people come to you, and they come to you with money. I'm not saying we are afloat with money, but we have significant contracts from our Department of Health and our Department of Education to do our expanded work. We also have involvement with some foundations. That's through the school nurses, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. Again, that's not launched yet. And the one ECHO I didn't talk about was educational leadership, probably one of our most successful ones, and that came from a local a Wyoming foundation, the Elbogen Foundation, and the Wyoming Center on Educational Leadership. So just to backtrack a little bit on that one, we are reaching educational leaders, so superintendents and principals and curriculum directors on a weekly basis, and in that ECHO, they're facilitating up to 70 and sometimes more people each week, just trying to improve school outcomes for students. But back to your question, and did we have a mixture of funding?
Thank you very much for your question. Northern Ireland is very small. We're a population of 1.7 million. So the prospect of ECHO, the visit of Sanjeev Arora, had a huge impact in government, because they are struggling with what governments are struggling with all over the world. How do we improve healthcare without additional resource and with rurality part of the Northern Ireland scene? So they're already committed to the concept of ECHO. The combination of a little small organization, a hospice, working alongside a government is a good one. Why is it a good one? We can sign ECHO documents much quicker than a government can sign them. I don't know, do you have lawyers in America? We have some of those guys in Ireland, and they make it really difficult, because we heard Sanjeev talking about what ECHO was with his 10 points. Those 10 points concern heart and humanity and lawyers. Sorry?
Hello, this is, oh, sorry.
So it's difficult to get sign off. So working collaboratively is really good. So at the moment, the government saw what we did. So we had run it well. We invited the health minister to visit to see the echoes. They caught on, and then they put a bid out for echoes across Northern Ireland. So currently they've put funding up for 15 echoes. And we know that there are about 40 different groups who have applied for for getting the funding for ECHO. So that's how it's worked with us. We think it's the combination that works well.
Yeah, hi. I'm Melissa Lopez from Project ECHO at MD Anderson in Texas. And when we go to training, we learn how a hub is composed and how the team is formed. So do you have an idea of how the best dream team of a super hub, how would that be composed and how big that is?
That is an excellent question. I think it's something we're learning. We at the ECHO Institute have a really large team. Max, do you want to talk about how you're trying to construct your dream super hub team and keep it really short?
Really short. Expansion is more difficult than having no money at all. We discovered that actually having to work really quickly is difficult. So in terms of our super hub team, we now have a dedicated team, and we are building that at the same time as running a hub. So that the hub gives us our core funding, gives us our shop window, and then as people, we plan super hub training or hub training on a monthly basis. So we hope that model of expansion won't bankrupt us, but will allow us to grow at a really steady rate.
You've talked about needing a Sanjeev and needing a...
Yeah, and Erica. And we have that in our structure of what we actually need. We need an IT lead, we need an Erica lead, someone good with grants, and we need someone who does the Sanjeev stuff, the standing up and the heart stuff. And then we need our hub team in the background to fill in the gaps as we grow. If it grows, the danger of being a super hub is we don't know how quickly it's going to grow. It's going pretty quickly. But if that NHS call comes in and they want to roll out hubs across the NHS, then we're probably going to have to set up several different departments across the UK to do that. So, yeah, it's a journey.
I've got just a comment. Erica, over here. Hi, everyone. Jennifer Edwards from the GE Foundation. And really, just a comment. Boy, I'm right on the same page as Ramesh, because our focus here in the U.S. is how can we make ECHO part of the operating system for community health centers? It is just baked into their processes and how they do it. And you have to have the proof points out there. So it's fabulous to hear you all saying we need a study. There are many projects already launched that have many studies. So what I'd like to challenge everybody, because that's a long runway, and I work for GE, and we've been challenged as an organization, as a company, to start doing things faster. So I'm going to insult every academic in this room to say, how can you, I challenge everybody with the ROI studies, with the evaluations, understand what could be good enough. What could be good enough to prove this works so that you can do those faster?
Yeah, Erica here. I think the Superhubs in 5 or 6 places, but it's good to have culture-specific Superhubs. For example, India and Africa will have a mobile echo. Echo in smartphone will do much better penetrations and reaching to the billion lives than echo running in a PC or tablets. My experience in India is that a lot of people, health professionals, counselors, they like to log in through their mobile system, in the smartphone system, and participate. Second, they don't want to their face to be visible in the screen. So often they switch off the video part of the whole thing. So, which also is not essential or may not be mandatory for spokes. You need to take the time. They come 2 hours from the busy schedule and sit as a spoke. So some specificity for the developing country, low resource country, need to be taken care of to touch 1 billion lives, because billion people stay there in Africa and Asia. Thank you.
We agree with you, Prabhat. We feel that just as echo hubs will each adapt the model within the fidelity to the model, it's important that we all understand what echo is and isn't, and that we are checking on one another and encouraging one another and giving feedback to one another so that we are showing fidelity to the model, but that it must be adapted to every sort of context. And you have been introduced to 4 of 8 Superhubs, and just as I said, we're going to need somewhere in the vicinity of 1,000 hubs or more. There will need to be dozens, maybe 100, maybe more Superhubs in the world.
Hi, over here, Erica. Hi, my name is Felipe Amaral. I work here at the University of New Mexico School of Medicine. And I have a question for the Superhubs regarding your training needs and challenges. I mean, each one of you is applying the ECHO model in your own reality, and you're also training others. So I was wondering, what are the challenges on delivering that training, and how do you overcome them? And what are some of the things that you feel that work?
Let's turn to somebody, maybe Kamud, would you like to answer that?
Training the other hubs is really a challenge, and I think it has to be area-wise, location-wise, and country-wise specific. What may work, what has worked in India is that we have invited the participants to come and train with us the same way, much like they train at Project ECHO in Albuquerque. But what additionally we have done is that we have invited the spokes as well and trained them, because we feel that it's been a necessity. Since I don't run a program specifically, an echo clinic in India, I can't answer that question, but we get so involved with the training and launching of the hub that each time it's like delivering a new baby, and each time it's as exciting.
I see lots more hands, but our time is done. Thank you all very much.